welcome to another episode from Tat Capital. Today we have Mr. David Smith, Executive Director from SenSen Networks. David, welcome.
Thank you, Ray.
For the viewers, a quick introduction about SenSen Networks itself. It's an ASX listed video analytics artificial intelligence company which provides significant smart city solutions and significant cutting edge solutions to basically bring out real-time business outcomes and real-time decision-making skills to its customers. So on that note, David, maybe if you could tell us a little bit about what SenSen's been doing since its listing and how has been your journey so far and where are the next key milestones that you're looking for?
Sure, Ray, and thank you for that summary. I think you've done a lot of my job today with that. So as you said, we've been operating as an ASX listed company now since October 2017. With the help of Tat Capital, we listed and raised $6.5 million at the IPO. And that really was to cement the technology advances the company have made and really grow the markets that we're looking to operate in and have since really developed. And you talked about smart cities, other people call it ITS, intelligent transportation. We also have a vertical focus in retail and leisure and in the gaming market in particular. But what our technology does, we actually make businesses and government processes more efficient, and we then charge revenue based on the extra value we create, either through cutting costs or increasing revenue for our customers. And we've got a global footprint. We have customers in Canada, 2 cities in Canada. We're in Singapore, a very big presence in Singapore, the Middle East, other Asian countries, and we're also just recently we're excited to actually set up our US entity, and that's really to meet customer-led opportunities in the biggest market in the world for us.
You've been a banker in your past career and you've received many multi-billion-dollar companies, and you've actually taken many companies into the billion-dollar market capitalization yourselves. In spite of many of the stories that you've actually been part of, what attracted you to be part of SenSen Networks? And
it's a good question, man, and I guess it's the first time you introduced me to Sebastian, who's the founder. I immediately saw that this is a company that I really believe will be a multi-billion-dollar company. It's a platform which we simply apply across different verticals. And I think, as you said, I've been involved in a number of companies which we've taken from very sort of modest size, but the key ingredient is the management have all had very large ambitions and abilities to execute, but also what the product or the service or the asset that they had global applicability.
Why do you think an aspiring mid-market listed company should have institutional shareholders on the list, and how does that help in building a world-class company?
Sure. Well, basically Australia is a fairly small market, and if you have a global story to tell, you need to talk to the institutions and the investors in those various markets where you operate. These days, investors can invest anywhere in the world, and if you've got a market presence in Hong Kong or a market presence in the UK or in India or anywhere that you actually have your business, there will be interest from that institutional market, high net worth investor market, to make an investment in your company. And they will fundamentally change the register of a mid-cap or small-cap company so that you do get the scale more quickly.
What was your journey, David, in terms of convincing your previous shareholders to embrace relatively new style of company and almost a complete new sector? And how did your previous board actually take to SenSen Networks?
Sure. As I like to describe it now, we went from coal mining to data mining. So it's a very different type of business. It was actually the 34th IPO I've been involved in managing.
Wow, 34 IPOs.
And I can honestly say it was the most complex. But as an executive director of the former company, we did a lot of due diligence and could see that this was a far superior offering, which shareholders, as soon as they heard the real life stories that SenSen touches, in terms of pedestrian safety, civic compliance, making the world a safer and better place for its citizens, shareholders were very enthusiastic to embrace this opportunity.
SenSen Networks, as David was pointing out in his earlier conversations, it was relatively a complex transaction. The previous listed company was in a complete different sector, and in terms of relative valuation, pricing, they were not actually comparable. We had to bring a lot of comparative metric to convince the market. So through that process, between SenSen board, Tat Capital as a lead advisor, and David representing the previous board, we had to do a significant amount of corporate actions adjustments to actually create a transaction. I remember, David, having conversations with you about how do we actually create a level playing field in terms of relative valuation. So I remember we spending a lot of time about potentially considering a consolidation in one company and creating a share split in another company, and considering a convertible note structure to provide the funding for the listed company to actually fund the transaction. At the same time, we ended up raising pre-IPO capital for SenSen Networks itself, about $1 million, to actually fund their operations and their listing expenses from their end. And then also remember, David, we went on a global roadshow to meet investors around the world. How do you think a cross-border advisor who has understanding of these issues would actually have played an important role in this transaction?
We see many IPOs and some rather large ones recently in the form of Uber, etc., where the pricing hasn't been right, the market hasn't responded appropriately because they weren't listened to in the pricing discussions. And I can safely say that I think we got it exactly right with the pricing. We actually, I think, jumped 70% on day one. We got to one point where we were 100% up. And that shows good pricing metrics, but it also shows good aftermarket support, which is very important. I know Tat and our other brokers involved had a good deal of aftermarket support, both from here and overseas, to actually support the stock when it was actually listed.
And I believe there's a technology called Gemini, which you have recently released a beta version, and some of your councils are currently testing.
Yes.
Can you give us a bit more idea in terms of what is Gemini?
The breakthrough that happened with our team working for many, many months is basically a smartphone. It's called Gemini, as you rightly said, and this is a very powerful piece of equipment. It's got a wonderful camera, wonderful processor, and it can do a lot of stuff. So the team developed a number of apps, and as you said, it was in testing, but now moved beyond the testing. We've got customers that are actually, we haven't publicly said how many we've got out in the field yet, but it's in the dozens out in the field. But we're seeing this in all our areas where we operate, Asia, North America, Middle East as well, and obviously Australia is key for us as well.
Excellent. So David, a couple of quick questions around how has been your experience working with a technology company which is taking advantage of Australia-India base?
Yeah, so the Indian connection with SenSen is critical for our success. I mean, people will be well aware that there are obvious cost advantages, but there's a very deep pool of talent in India, very well educated, well resourced. Where we are in Hyderabad, it's basically a tech city, and so there's a very ambitious culture to succeed globally, and we certainly, every day, it's a fully integrated operation. It's not like India's over there. We've got people in Singapore and North America as well, but we basically work as a team doing the different parts of the business wherever we're located. It's critical to our success.
What will be your advice to companies which are actually on the path of setting up a cross-border office, and obviously you have employees, shareholders, board members from different cultures?
I guess the key is to equip yourself with the right partner and the right advisor to navigate what can sometimes be a tricky path. And it can be a costly path as well. If you don't get it right, you can pay a lot.
Companies like SenSen are discovered, and they are generally discovered through cross-border delegations like the Tat Expo that we operate. And we've been quite fortunate since our association with SenSen Networks at Tat Expo in 2016 in Hyderabad. And since then, it's been an incredible journey for Tat Capital, working with SenSen Management and David Smith and the rest of the board members of SenSen Networks. It has been a wonderful journey, and we invite many more such cross-border companies across Australia, India to take benefit of Tat Capital's footprint across Australia, India, and its ambition to help mid-market enterprises across the border to create cross-border business, to create cross-border trade, and to create cross-border investment flows. And we encourage to talk to us and be part of Tat Expo in the near future across Australia in August and in September in India. And with that, we would like to see you guys again in the next episode. And before we close, David, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate, and we're looking forward to see many more success for SenSen and you personally.
And we look forward to working with Tat Capital over the coming years as well as we grow SenSen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.